Ambassador David Chun had dedicated his life to peace. For 37 years, he had served as Earth's chief diplomatic representative to the Galactic Council. He was the architect of the Terran Accords, the mediator who had prevented the Rigel crisis from becoming a system-wide war, and the man who had convinced 17 species to lay down their arms in favor of negotiated settlements. David Chun had never raised his voice in anger. He had never walked out of a negotiation. He had never met a conflict he couldn't resolve through patient dialogue and careful compromise, until he received the footage from Colony 7. The transmission came during a routine council session on Nexus Prime. Ambassador Chun was mediating a trade dispute between the Altarian Consortium and the Vegan Collective when his aide slipped him the emergency communique. The color drained from his face as he read the preliminary report. "Honored delegates," he said quietly, "I must request a brief recess." In the privacy of his diplomatic suite, Chun watched the security footage from humanity's newest frontier colony. Colony 7 had been established just 18 months ago, a peaceful agricultural settlement on the edge of civilized space, home to 3,000 human families seeking a simpler life among the stars. The Draconian Empire had arrived without warning. The footage showed Imperial troops marching through the settlement school. Children's voices could be heard in the background, confused, frightened, calling for their parents. Then came the systematic executions. One by one, the youngest victim was 4 years old. 217 human children murdered in cold blood. Their crime? Being human in territory the Draconians had decided to claim. Chun sat in silence for 20 minutes, watching the footage loop. His hands trembled slightly as he reached for his secure communicator. "This is Ambassador Chun," he said, his voice perfectly steady. "I need an emergency session of the Galactic Council. Full attendance. No exceptions." 3 hours later, every major species in the galaxy was represented in the council chambers. Emperor Thaxmore of the Draconian Empire lounged in his seat with casual arrogance, apparently unconcerned by the sudden assembly. Ambassador Chun walked to the central podium with measured steps. He carried a single data pad and wore the same diplomatic smile that had charmed thousands of delegates over the decades. "Honored representatives," he began, "I come before you today to discuss an act of unprecedented barbarism committed by the Draconian Empire against human civilians." He activated the holographic display. The footage from Colony 7 filled the chamber. The reaction was immediate. Gasps of horror echoed from dozens of species. Even hardened military delegates turned away from the images. But Emperor Thaxmore simply yawned. The colony was in disputed territory, the Emperor said dismissively. The humans were trespassing. "I merely cleared the land for proper use." Chun nodded slowly. "I see. And you consider the systematic execution of children to be an acceptable method of land clearing. Weak species produce weak offspring," Thaxmore sneered. "I was being merciful. A quick death is better than a life of slavery." For 37 years, Ambassador Chun had never lost his temper. He had faced down warlords, negotiated with pirates, and maintained his composure in the face of every imaginable provocation. But as he looked at Emperor Thaxmore's smug expression, something fundamental changed in David Chun's eyes. "I want to thank you, Emperor," Chun said quietly, "for making this so much easier." He reached into his jacket and withdrew a document bearing the seal of the United Earth Government. The chamber fell silent as he tore it in half. "This," he said, letting the pieces fall to the floor, "was the Terran Non-Aggression Treaty. As of this moment, it no longer exists." The silence was deafening. For 4 centuries, humanity has chosen diplomacy over warfare. We have negotiated when we could have conquered. We have sought peace when war would have been easier. His voice carried clearly through the chamber. "That ends today." Chun looked directly at Emperor Thaxmore. "The Earth government has authorized me to declare total war against the Draconian Empire. Not a territorial dispute. Not a limited engagement. Total war." He smiled then, and every delegate in the chamber felt a chill run down their spines. "Your empire has 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. After that, we stop being diplomats." The age of human restraint was over.